Hello and welcome to Board Game Bonkers. I'm Jay Sears. Welcome to another board game review. Today we're going to be reviewing Agricola Family Edition. Now, many will consider this as a gateway game, but actually I really enjoy this. Now, before we get started, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so for more content like this. And please let us know in the comments down below what you think about this particular review that we're going through today. Now, Agricola is simply a worker placement game. You're placing out your worker to acquire resources, build out your farm, acquire animals and gain as many points as you can. Now before we hit to the table, I'd just like to apologise for the colour scheme that a camera has picked up. For some strange reason, it's got a bit confused with the colour green. Perhaps there's too much green in this game. Well, the camera certainly got confused, so sincerely apologies for that. So let's head into the table, let you know how it plays, come back at top, let you know my thoughts, what I like, what I don't like, and give the game a final scoring. Agricola has played over 14 rounds indicated by his marker. Here at the end of each round, you'll be moving the marker up. It will trigger additional action spaces as the game proceeds. You'll notice here you have these icons. That's feed your people. This will be trigger when this round's marker hits that particular area. For example, in rounds 4, 7, 9, 11, 13 and 14 is when Feed Your People will trigger. Now, feeding your people, essentially what you'll be doing is you'll be feeding your people that you have in your room. So any people that you have will cost you 2. If you have 2 people in one room, which can only happen when you acquire additional workers, you will pay free food instead of 2 for each person. For this case, you'll pay free food instead of 4. If it's like this, it'll be 4 food. So essentially this is a worker placement game, which you'll be placing your workers out into these different action spaces. You notice action spaces will open up as the rounds proceed, indicated by the number on them. You have action tiles here. Now at the back of them they have the indicated space where they go. However, you can randomise them and place them where you like if you see fit, and I'll explain how they work in just a second. But essentially at the start of each round you'll be placing resources into these particular spaces. We have animals, sheep here, we have food, we have wood, we have reed, we have clay, and we also have grain. But if you're noticing with grain, you do not keep adding and accumulating grain on that space, you just collect the one. However, the ones with the non-black arrows, you will keep accumulating. For example, here I'll place 3 wood. If they're not taken, I'll keep placing wood in there, and when you go to that action space, you'll be able to collect all of that particular resource. So here we have wood, we have reed, we have clay. Here you pick and collect one of each type of resource. So for example, you can either take a wood or a clay, or you can take some reed. Here you can acquire a field, sorry, not a field, a pasture. So a pasture here, it already has fences built round. As you can see, you pay the indicated cost, which is 6 wood, and then it will tell you how many animals it can hold. Whenever you place a stable on there, and you can acquire stables from these spaces here, it will double the amount of animals that it can hold. So instead of holding just 6, you'll be able to hold up to 12. Here you'll be able to acquire a field. Now, what are fields for? Fields allow you to plough and sow. So here I can gain a grain, which will go into my general supply. Here I can plough and sow. So for every 3 of my fields, I can take one of my grains from my supply and place it in each of my fields. If I only have 2, I just do 2. So here's an example here, and then I can sow, in which case I'll be able to place an additional 2 from the supply on to that particular field. I've only got one here as an example, but if I had an additional one, I would place them on there. Now you can't actually use that grain until the end of the round. At the end of the round, you'll be able to take one of your grain off and you'll be able to put it into general supply. So it's a good way of accumulating grain, but it's also good because each grain you have on your field is worth 1 point. Now down here you'll get a sheep. Down here you will get food. Down here you'll get the rooster, which is the first player marker. Now that could be quite powerful, particularly if you need a particular action space. and you also gain 1 food. If you notice here, you will accumulate food over time if it's not taken. However, here you will only gain the 1 food, just like you'll just gain the 1 grain over here. On this action spot here, you will gain a upgrade. Now, different upgrades are different costs. You'll notice that you'll have the same types of buildings, but they'll be different costs, so they'll get more expensive as they go along. So this will let you exchange goods that you have into food. Food is important because you need it to feed your people. If you can't feed your people for any particular reason, you can actually use a different resource for that, and that is you can use a particular type of your grain to feed your people instead, so that acts as 1 food if you're struggling. On this action space here, you can take a room tile. You can have as many as you like, as long as you meet the cost, which is 5 wood and 2 reed. Now, when you take that, you can also take the additional action as well. Now, it's important to note that you can take either of those actions. If you can't build a room for any reason, you can just take and build a stable instead, costing you 2 wood. Now, when you take a room, it doesn't matter where it goes in front of you. You can place it anywhere you like, and you'll be able to utilise that space for additional workers, which comes into effect in round 5. Here you can get convert a standard room into a clay room. Now, it doesn't do anything apart from give you additional points. Standard wooden rooms do not give you any points at the end of the game. Here you can build a clay room straight away, and if you notice down here, you've got the option of building stables as well, or you can just build stables. Here you get an additional worker, which you can use, but must go into a room. If you haven't got a spare room, you can't actually acquire that additional worker. It's essentially having a baby, and it goes into the same room as you and during that round. However, in the next round, you must have a room because it becomes an adult. Here you'll get a boar, you've got a cattle. Here you'll be able to exchange resources into food, and also you'll be able to convert resources into points. That's really powerful, these tiles. And down here in 12, you'll be able to acquire additional workers, but they do not need to go into your room. But bear in mind, any workers at the end of the game that are not in houses, you won't acquire the points. Each worker is worth 3 points that's in a house. On space 13, you'll see you'll be able to get both actions that are the same as what's up here, except it's a lot more powerful. So essentially that's how you play Agricola. So just things to bear in mind, when you trigger this particular icon, it's a feeding phase, you must feed your phase. 2 food for each person. You don't get food, you can exchange your resource into food if you're desperate. If you can't feed your people for any reason, you'll get one of these begging tokens, and they can be quite damaging. -3 points, and given that you don't get lots of points, it can be quite damaging indeed. Now, at the end of the game, you will count out the amount of points you got. So remember, you get 3 points for each person in your house. So you lose 3 points if you have a begging marker. So keep that in mind. For each grain in your fields, you will gain a point. Any resources that are not in a house or on your field, you will not gain any points. Each animal that's in your field, not in your house, will gain you 1 point. You'll count how many points you've got, including any stables that are in your field as well, is worth a point. If it's not in your field, it's not worth any points. Now, you can choose not to place it into your pasture, not your field. An animal can stay in a stable. However, that will not accumulate any points at the end of the game. And that is essentially how you play Agricola. Whoever's got the most points is the winner. So there we have it, Agricola Family Edition. Now, I just want to talk first of all about my pros. Before I do that, I just want to clarify one rule. I didn't quite feel like explaining an overview, was that when you go to particular spots for those additional buildings, those tiles that you place onto the board, from I think it's number 9, 11, etc. You actually build those buildings and place them in front of you. So whoever goes there first to get that building, well, they acquire it before other players. Now, I didn't explain that properly in overview, so apologies for that. So let's go into my likes and start with that. So the first thing I like is the simplified scoring. I like how simplified this game is. unlike the original Agricola. Now, I don't want to be comparing the difference because they are quite different in the games, but I will explain that a little bit at the end. Now, the scoring is much more simplified. It doesn't matter whether I go for one type of animal or mix it up. It's essentially the same, regardless of the type of animal, which is quite a bit different in how that scoring works. So it's just a lot more simplified here, which is great. The second thing that I like are there seems to be 3 different strategies now which is great for such a light family game. Now I can go for the wheat, so I can accumulate more wheat because every wheat that I've got on my field, I'm getting an additional point there. Or I can go for animals. You know, it doesn't matter what type of animal I get, but the more animals I've got, and I can get a lot of animals, that's going to give me points for animals that are in my pastures. And the third strategy are those buildings. So when the game goes on through the rounds, you'll be able to build buildings. Now, buildings, you'll be able to convert your goods into points. So that's another strategy. Or you can mix and match it. Now, no doubt you'll be at the start of the game ploughing fields to get grain or acquiring animals. It's going to give you points, but also you want some of those buildings because you can exchange your goods into points. So there seems to be, I would say, 3 strategies, but really 2 main strategies, with that third strategy of clan buildings mixed into the other 2. And I think that's really good for this way of game. The third thing that I like are the competition for spaces. So you seem to have a lot of spaces. There's not too many to start with, but it certainly is more as the game proceeds. I really like that at the start of the game, you haven't got too many spaces. There's a lot of competition. Do I go here? And sometimes you want to go for that first player marker, that rooster, and sure, you get a food. And you want to kind of try and get to certain spaces before other players. And I like that competition. It doesn't feel too tight. And it also doesn't feel loose either, and it feels tight enough, but it doesn't constrain you too much. It doesn't frustrate you too much, and I really like that. And that leads on nicely to my next point, number 4, and that is, as the game proceeds, more spaces open up. You have more choice, more options, and that competition slightly fades, but it's still there, especially when you start triggering those buildings that you can build and acquire. That creates that tension, that bit of tightness again in the worker placement. And I really like that it starts off tight, it loosens up, you have more options, and you're thinking, right, okay, I've got this option here, I've got that option. And it also feels that first player token isn't so important midway through, but towards the end, it becomes important again. I really like that tension kind of eases, and you have more space and more options, and now I'm feeling a bit more tense where I haven't got as many good options because I really want these particular spaces. My opponent might get it, so perhaps I need to go here first to get the first player marker to then get this type of building. I really like that, how that progresses through the game. My fifth thing I like is just the simplicity of the iconography, and it's language independent. There's no text on the board, and it's really simple to pick up and to remember. And it's the sort of game you don't play that often. I really like that. So let's go on to a couple of things that I don't like and what I can see others not liking. And the first thing is the lack of options to get food. Now, feeding your people, I don't mind. I can see some people not liking that mechanism of feed your people. And Agricola was the one who created that, feed your people. I don't mind it so much. What I'm concerned about is the lack of options to get food. There's really only 2 places to get food. Sure, you can get some ovens, for example, to make bread, to convert into food, which is a much better conversion rate than just going to one of the open spaces to get one food, for example. So there aren't many options, and it does feel quite tight. So the more people you acquire, and you do need to get at least, I would say, 3 people, in addition to what you've got, to really benefit from all the action spaces and to maximise your opportunity to get points. It is quite constrained in the amount of food that you can get, and it always feels tight. The second thing that I don't like, and it links into this, those begging tokens. You have to go begging to get food. If you haven't got food, and you're penalised quite heavily. -3 points seems a little bit steep. And in the original Agricola, I think it's something like 5 or 6 points, which was brutal. And it still feels quite steep here. Now, I've managed to play the game several times and not fall into that trap. And really, you could put that down to poor planning. But it does feel quite harsh. I can see some people not liking that. So that brings us to the end of my likes and don't likes. And my final thoughts for this game are, I really feel that this is a really good family weight game, and it's quite on the light side. And I'm going to compare this slightly a little bit between the original one, because it's quite a bit different. Some people may see this as a kind of gateway into Agricola. I would kind of argue not so much, but this certainly seems like a good gateway game to worker placement. Perhaps somebody's not played many board games, or perhaps are new to gaming and they want to see a game that's really accessible. This is definitely one, and I really like the package. It's got good component quality for what you're paying, and it looks good on the table. It's simple, it's streamlined, and much more streamlined than the original Agricola. It's in a fairly small package, as you can see, so it doesn't take up too much shelf space. And it's quite straightforward in how it operates and plays. You don't have to worry about all that different types of scoring. It doesn't matter, what types of animals you've got. It's really much more streamlined with the scoring. Now, it might not be enough for board gamers who already like worker placement game. Now, I've got a bit of a workaround with that, and I'm someone who's played quite a lot of games, and I still like Agricola the Family Edition, but sometimes I feel it just needs a little bit more. And what I've done is I've bought these expansion packs for the original Agricola. Now, you might have these hanging around already. What I've done, I've gone through these cards and I've taken out the ones that wouldn't work with the Family Edition and kept the ones that would. And what I've done with these cards, I've put them into Occupation 1 and Occupation 2, which we then give out to the players at the start of the game. One Occupation 1 card, which is quite powerful, and Occupation 2, which is less powerful to the players. So they have some abilities to start with. So for example, the Pure Breeder. If we look at it, it says you immediately get 1 wood after each round. That does not end with a harvest. You can breed exactly one type of animal. This is not considered a breeding phase. So one thing I didn't explain in the overview was that you can breed animals. For every animal you've got, you'll then breed another animal, and that's during the breeding phase. So these give you additional powers, and just spices up the game and gives it some variation and some asymmetric abilities. And what I've also done as well, I felt that with the acquiring the different ovens and the buildings, there isn't a huge option there, and some may feel that there isn't enough and there should be more. Well, that's fine. So what I did was I used one of the expansions to place out 2 cards at a time next to those ovens, so that you've got an option of an oven or one of these cards which give you additional abilities. For example, this particular one, the Civic Facade, it says before the start of each round, if you have more occupations than improvements in your hand, you get 1 food. So there's lots of ways these cards can enhance the game. Some are not suitable for the Family Edition, but if you want to know more, I put a post up on Board Game Geek. I will put the link in the description down below. You can check that out in terms of expansions, which ones I purchased, and you'll be able to see about utilising it into your game if that's something you feel this Family Edition doesn't offer enough. But as it is, it's a great package. I really like this game. I actually prefer it over the original, and I'll tell you why. In the original, obviously, I love the fact that you have these different worker placement cards to flip over after each round, and you have more options. I really like that. It just feels a little bit convoluted in terms of I build my pasture, I now have to build fences around it. It just seems a bit one step too much. The scoring, to me, seems like it overdoes it at times. In terms of the particular animals I need to try and group together to maximise my points. I feel that the Family Edition is a little bit looser, it's a little bit more flexible, more relaxing to play and more enjoyable, and it's far, far quicker. The original, a higher player count could take in excess of 3 hours, whereas this can take about 45 minutes to play, maybe up to an hour at full player count. much quicker than the original Agricola. Sure, it doesn't offer anywhere enough depth that some players may want, and that's why I recommend checking out that link in Board Game Geek to have a look at bringing in additional cards that might increase that complexity. It certainly does, and gets you thinking a lot more. But as it is, I think this is a great game. I highly recommend it. I'm going to be giving this a 7 out of 10. Certainly one, if you're looking for a simplified family edition working placement game, Agricola Family Edition is definitely one worth checking out. And that brings us to the end. Thanks so much for watching. And have you already done so? Please consider subscribing to this channel. It really does help to grow the channel. And without your help in the community, well, we wouldn't exist. So thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care.